Somewhere right now, someone is holding a drink. Maybe it's a cold beer after a long day. Maybe it's wine with dinner. Maybe it's something stronger. And somewhere in the back of their mind, a tiny voice is asking, should I really be doing this? Here's the answer. Yes, because your relationship with alcohol may be far older than you think. It goes back millions of years, long before humans even existed. If videos like this make you see yourself differently, subscribe. Every week, we uncover another forgotten truth about why you are the way you are. Now let's talk about one of the strangest accidents in human history. Imagine you're walking through a forest 50,000 years ago. You're hungry. You're always hungry. Then you spot a pile of fruit on the ground. Some of it looks different, softer, slightly discolored. It smells strange, sweet but sharp. One part of your brain says, maybe don't eat that. Another says, free food. So you eat it. And then something strange happens. Your legs feel a little unreliable. Your face gets warm. The forest suddenly seems friendlier. That grumpy person in your tribe you've been avoiding for weeks? Suddenly, they're not so bad. You look up at the sky. It's beautiful. Everything is beautiful. Congratulations. You may have just discovered one of humanity's oldest ways to get drunk. But what actually happened? The fruit wasn't simply overripe. It was fermenting. Wild yeast had been converting the fruit's natural sugars into ethanol. Nature had made alcohol without a recipe, a brewery, or a single human invention. Just fruit, yeast, time, and one very adventurous ancestor. And here's where the story gets even stranger. Your body was already prepared for it. In 2014, researchers traced the evolutionary history of a human enzyme called ADH4, which helps break down ethanol. They found that a version capable of processing alcohol efficiently appeared in the ancestors of humans, chimpanzees, and gorillas roughly 10 million years ago. That's millions of years before our species existed. Our ancestors were likely spending more time on the forest floor where fallen, fermenting fruit was easier to encounter. So your relationship with alcohol didn't begin when someone invented a brewery. It may have started when an ancient ape encountered a piece of fermented fruit. 10 million years ago, before you were even human. But eventually, humans stopped waiting for nature to make the alcohol. We started making it ourselves. And this is where the archaeological evidence gets much stronger. At Jiahu in northern China, researchers found pottery containing chemical traces of a fermented drink made from rice, honey, and fruit. The evidence dates to around 9,000 years ago. 9,000 years. Older than writing, older than the wheel. And these people weren't accidentally eating rotten fruit anymore. They were deliberately producing a fermented drink. But why? Because alcohol wasn't simply about getting drunk. It may have helped bring people together. Imagine several small groups meeting after months apart. Strangers, rivals, potential trading partners. Then food comes out, and so does the fermented drink. People relax, they talk, they share. The social barriers become easier to cross. That doesn't mean alcohol magically created civilization. But shared feasting and drinking may have helped strengthen social bonds and cooperation in some ancient communities. And then there's Göbekli Tepe. Around 11,500 years ago, hunter-gatherers were building enormous stone structures in what is now Turkey. Researchers found massive limestone vessels, some capable of holding up to 160 liters. Chemical tests detected calcium oxalate in some residues, something that can form during grain processing and fermentation. That has led researchers to propose that beer or another fermented grain drink may have been produced there, but the evidence isn't conclusive. And that's actually what makes the site fascinating. If these vessels were used for fermented drinks, then some of humanity's earliest monumental gatherings may also have involved communal drinking. So alcohol wasn't necessarily just a recreational invention. For ancient societies, fermented drinks could also be part of food, ritual, medicine, trade, and social gatherings. And in some historical settings, low-alcohol fermented beverages may have offered practical advantages when clean water was difficult to obtain. But here's the bigger story. For thousands of years, humans kept finding new ways to ferment things. Fruit, honey, rice, grain, grapes. And eventually, entire civilizations built traditions around them. So when you feel that familiar warmth after a drink, or suddenly find it easier to talk to the people around you, you're experiencing the effects of a substance humans have been encountering for an extraordinarily long time. But don't confuse that with alcohol being harmless. Our ancestors may have had a long relationship with alcohol. That doesn't mean modern drinking is automatically safe. The real lesson is stranger. You didn't invent alcohol. You inherited a biological system that has been interacting with ethanol for millions of years. Long before anyone put it in a bottle. Long before anyone called it beer. Long before anyone called it wine. And perhaps long before there was even a word for being drunk. If this changed how you think about yourself, subscribe. Every week, we find another ancient explanation for a very modern feeling. And tell me in the comments, did you know your relationship with alcohol may stretch back around 10 million years? I read every single one.